This video contains elements that are not suitable for children under the age of 14. Viewer discretion is advised.
Butter Feels Like What It Is, which is a song that the radio and a small subset of dedicated superfans really love, which is only squatting at number 1 because there's not a ton else going on right now.
Hey guys, guess what? Other things started going on.
Hey guys, Sean Fay-Wolfe of Diamond X Studios here, and as it turns out, the powers that be have decided that the Round Boys have been thwarted for the time being, and so we're actually starting to get big music releases again. I mean, this isn't really that new. 2021 has had quite a few huge releases up to this point, with the likes of Morgan Wallen, Olivia Rodrigo, and Doja Cat each getting several songs into heavy rotation all at once. But the surging tide of blockbuster albums postponed due to COVID seems to be finally making landfall and absolutely dominating the landscape of American popular music. I mean, hell, right now at this very moment as I write this, the Hot 100 is still reeling from back-to-back releases from Kanye West and Drake, the latter of whom managed to get 9 songs in the top 10 at once with his latest offering. I'll be the first to admit that I used to really hate these album bombs because of how boring they made the Hot 100 to analyze, but over time I've come to more appreciate the purifying effect that they have on the charts in the long run. Much like a forest fire burns down old, weak, and sickly trees to create fertile soil from which the next generation can grow, so too does the album bomb wipe the charts clear of all the old summer hits which have overstayed their welcome to make room for the new hits of the future, and oh boy are the new hits moving in. At long last, it seems like we're finally entering the post-pandemic era of popular music, which, if it ends up staying the way it is now, has the potential to be one of the richest, most versatile, and most balanced eras for music that we've seen in a long time. After a full year of TikTokers and B-listers having full control over the charts with no real competition, we now finally get to see how the population reacts to a music scene that has an abundance of both viral smashes and more traditional industry pushes at the same time. And so far, it's been like pouring lava into water, and that there's a lot of bubbling, gurgling, and steam with the occasional flash of fire as things cool off rapidly and settle evenly to the bottom. You'll soon see that the current season of popular music has seen a pretty huge drop-off in quality from the last time I discussed it, but considering how legendary the Summer Jam season was, that was kind of inevitable. The charts are interesting, the charts are moving, I'm pretty happy with how things are looking as we head into the final stretch of 2021, and I, for one, would be happy to talk to you about it. In this video, we'll be looking at the top 20 songs in the United States at the beginning of fall 2021, ranking them from worst to best based on my own personal opinions, and putting them into tiers of quality based on those opinions. Also, I'm going to be skipping over songs that I've already talked about at least twice in my seasonal ranking series, as well as any album tracks outside of the top 10, and I'll be replacing those with the highest eligible songs outside the top 20. This means I'll be skipping over Levitating by pop stars Dua Lipa at number 9, Fair Trade by Drake featuring Travis Scott at number 11, Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande at number 12, Heat Waves by Glass Animals at number 15, Champagne Poetry by Drake at number 19, and No Friends in the Industry by Drake at number 22. And now, without further ado, let's take a peek into the new normal of the music world as we take a look at...
Funny how you said it was the You know we did it again, I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for.
You know what? I'll admit it. It's been quite a while since a song on the American Hit Parade just walked up and smacked me directly in the face with its own shittiness.
Yeah, we fancy like Applebee's on a date night. Got that Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake.
So, the first country song ever to hit the top 5 off of TikTok is a literal commercial jingle. Great. You know, even today, in a post-Old Town Road world, a massive percent of the population still sees country as nothing but hick music for idiot rednecks with no place in polite society. And I suppose I could point out some examples of truly excellent country music from the past few years to counteract these beliefs. But frankly, I don't think the general public deserves my explanation, considering that every time a country song does become a massive crossover, it's always inane shit like Meant to Be, or Body Like a Back Road, or this fucking thing right here. And you heard me right before. The song didn't get big off a massive industry push driven by radio play. No, it got big because millions of people were dancing to it on TikTok, and then the industry just followed where the people were leading them. It's almost poetic in a way, like a beautiful populist fairy tale that's been deep fried in motor oil.
Alabama jammer, she my Dixieland delight. That's how we do, fancy like.
Really though, I should be thankful that a song like Fancy Like has become a hit. I spend so much of my time trying to look past the surface level of pop songs I don't like, so every now and then, it's really nice when the general public makes a top 5 hit out of a commercial for the world's shittiest restaurant that sounds like it was produced by putting a steel guitar into a cement mixer, where the only thing I have to do to show how shit it is to just let it play. But then again, there clearly is something about this song that is genuinely appealing to a lot of people. Like I said, this got big organically, so I think it is still my job to understand the deeper appeal behind this song, and I think I know exactly how to do it.
Hi, welcome to Applebee's. May I take your order?
Yes. I think I'd like to get the Bourbon Street steak with the Oreo shake, and if I could get some whipped cream on the top, too.
They kicked me out of Applebee's and said I'm banned from ever eating food again. Oh, damn it, food was one of my favorite things to eat!
Bad things. It's a lot of bad things that they wish and they wish and they wish and they wish and they wish on me.
Well, here's something you probably didn't expect to see this low.
You wouldn't have nothing if you didn't have me. Wouldn't have nothing.
Oh, wait, shit, that's the wrong clip. There we go.
If I didn't love you, I'd be good by now. I'd be better than barely getting by somehow.
So Jason Aldean sucks. He's got the goofy-ass voice, his music is overproduced and passionless, and his lyrics paint him out to be a generally unpleasant guy to have in your life. That said, I have to admit that on this particular song, he does sound a bit more palatable than usual, and while the chorus is a bit too busy with a few too many layers, at least the verses are pretty clean. Also, while her presence in the song is woefully minimal, I will say that it's great to see Carrie Underwood on a real hit for the first time in nearly a decade. She's just as welcome a presence now as she was that time she let the Wizard of Oz murder her dad, or whatever that song was about. So yeah, at a glance, this is a perfectly acceptable little slice of Nashville radio filler. Why do I think this is bad? Well, let's put it this way. The basic idea of this song is, I wish that I didn't still love you so that I could stop missing and caring about you. Lots of songs have that basic idea, and most of them take the idea and color it up with interesting metaphors or some sort of framing device to make it stand out. And then there's this one.
Yeah, it would be easy not to miss you. Wonder about who's with you. Turn to want you off whenever I want to. If I didn't love you.
If I Didn't Love You by Jason Aldean and Carrie Underwood has, without exaggeration, the single most generic set of lyrics that I've ever heard in a hit song from the 21st century. I am not someone who usually gets that bothered by generic lyrics if the composition beneath them holds up, but seriously, go read the actual lyrics to this song. It reads like something that should be on an AM radio station from 1974. The rest of the composition, like I mentioned before, is fine in a vacuum, but when the lyrics are so absurdly bare bones, it just ends up accentuating all of the least interesting parts of the production and winds up creating a massive vortex of meaningless noise that I genuinely can't stand. I'm genuinely debating whether or not I was too kind by not putting it alongside this week's other Nashville disaster in the terrible tier. I'll take Drake's half-finished table scraps over this anytime. Oh, and speaking of which...
Girls want girls where I'm from, hey, yeah, girls want girls where, hey. I'm too sexy for this syrup, too sexy for your girl, too sexy for this world.
I've seen a lot of people comparing Drake's newest album to Scorpion and what a tedious, drawn-out slog it is, but I don't think that comparison is fair, because on Scorpion, I could identify at least a good few places where Drake actually seemed to care. Nice for What is a song that Drake cared about. God's Plan is a song where Drake had something to say. Hell, even In My Feelings seemed like it was a song that Drake made because it was a style that he was genuinely interested in. Certified Lover Boy doesn't have tracks like that. Every song blends into the last. It's all just background noise without any musical high points, or even any substantial low points. It's just a non-stop, monotonous drone from start to end. In every track I've heard from the album, Drake seems to have scientifically calculated the least amount of effort he needs to get the most middle-of-the-road sound conceivable, and his collaborators wind up being the best part, despite nearly all of them having even more ass than Drake himself. I mean, the least he could have done was to drop the songs from Scary Hours 2 in there to break up the pace, since in hindsight, those 3 songs were where he decided to put his whole year's worth of effort into, but no. And so the only parts we're left to care about on any level are the parts where Future sings the chorus to I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt, and the part where Drake calls himself a lesbian.
Say that you a lesbian, girl, me too. Hey, girls want girls where I'm from, hey,
Guys, let's be honest for a second. is this really that much more dignified than Girl You Got That Yummy Yum, That Yummy Yum, That Yummy Yummy? Because in both that song and these two, I hear the exact same thing. A boring man with no ideas trying to get people to care about his boring album by throwing out the cringiest thing he can think of to get people talking. The only difference is that with Drake, it somehow keeps working.
Bad bitches only, ain't no mediocre. No, don't want no mediocre. I won't hit no mediocre. You
don't need no other body. You don't need no other body.
Considering how often WizKid trends on hip-hop Twitter, I'm surprised it took him this long to get an actual hit stateside. Granted, I guess it makes a bit more sense when you consider that his style really isn't the kind of thing that typically gets big over here. Afrobeats has never had any really big lasting impact in the US like it has in the UK, but I'm still surprised that we haven't heard more from WizKid in the mainstream, you know, considering that one time he had a #1 hit for 10 weeks. Yeah, if you didn't know, this is the guy who Drake sampled on the bridge of One Dance, aka the one part of One Dance that everyone actually liked. I'm not entirely sure why it took WizKid half a decade to find a hit song of his own after all that exposure in 2016, but I guess it does make sense when you consider that Essence is the most 2016 song I've heard in a very long time. And yes, feel free to take that the wrong way.
Say your body talk to me nice. Say not my love you didn't need for your life. Yeah, I love to be like.
Look, I've softened a lot on these dancehall umbrella songs since they dominated the scene 5 years ago. I can't appreciate that sound, but Essence commits the cardinal sin of that style by being too rhythmic and poppy to be low-key, but too muted to be any fun. The original song just does not connect with me on a structural level, and it blows my mind that a remix with Justin Bieber is the only reason the song is in the top 20 right now, as if it wasn't boring enough already. But then again, I guess it does add up. I mean, Justin Bieber is basically the high-fructose corn syrup of music. He might be gooey, basic, and sickeningly artificial, but dumping him all over something is by far the easiest way to get Americans to absolutely eat it up. And now that he's here, please allow me to introduce a sleeper pick for the worst 2 seconds in pop music 2021.
Only you can hold my body. Only you can hold my body.
Look, I've made fun of Bieber's clearly forced and insincere Spanish verse on Despacito many times before, but at least there he fully engulfed himself in the language enough to be able to fake it on the actual recording. But hearing Justin Bieber crooning out Nigerian slang in his ghost white, corporate-approved Canadian voice, it just makes my skin crawl. That is a hard pass from me.
I'm Mr. Body Catcher, Slaughter Gang Soul Snatcher.
So this seems to be the one track from Certified Lover Boy people are actually kind of latching onto, while the rest of the album just seems to be what America has decided to occupy its ears with for a couple weeks and nothing more. Knife Talk is the only track on the album that's actually been consistently gaining more and more traction each week rather than losing it. People genuinely seem to be enjoying this song. By which I mean that last 21 Savage album was really good, and so even his sloppy seconds are preferable to the ocean of Drake dreck surrounding them. I'll be honest, I've never really been that big on 21 Savage. I typically find his bars to be unspectacular and his flow and delivery to be mind-numbing and tedious, despite how surprisingly often he's able to justify that tedium, either through the context of its song's emotional through-line or its juxtaposition against a hard beat. This song certainly isn't the most deadening I've heard from him. It's actually got a low-key, cool-fire, gritted determination energy that is kind of catchy in a very ambient background noise kind of way. But this is a song that has absolutely no business being 4 minutes long. It's more than worn at its welcome by the halfway point. Not at all helped by quite possibly an all-time dullest contribution from Drake. Seriously, he's making non-stop sound like fucking Thunderstruck. I have to admit, it does make perfect sense that this is turning into the sleeper hit of Certified Lover Boy, because unbelievably, it is the song from the album that most deserves to be a hit, despite everyone on it sounding down a good few cups of lean.
Baby, why don't you just meet me in the middle?
Can't let it flow. Smooth like butter. Pour you in like no other.
One other thing that's made the current charts feel more stable is that there isn't a lot of stan activity going on at the moment. I think they're all busy talking about Nicki Minaj's testicles or something, I don't know. But yeah, there haven't been that many songs lately that have charted high solely off the back of dedicated superfans mass buying singles with the express purpose of getting their favorite act to #1. The sole exception to this is Butter, which the stans have incredibly continued to support for long enough that it passed Driver's License as the longest running #1 hit of 2021. Now let me be clear, you can absolutely have a problem with the Billboard charts being this easy to manipulate. And you are absolutely allowed to dislike Butter or any other BTS song as a piece of music. I certainly don't think this song is anything special. It's one of the most 5 out of 10 dance songs I've ever heard. However, I've seen a lot of people lately saying that this song is bad specifically because of the stands mass buying it, and that BTS as a group isn't worthy of respect because of that. And I gotta be honest with you guys, that is a really lame mindset to have. Even beyond the fact that BTS has a massive and varied body of work to their name beyond their English output, fully conflating your opinions on the music with your frustration at the system ignores a lot of nuance that is very important to this conversation. Billboard actually published an interview where they straight up asked BTS if their success was illegitimate because of their fans mass buying, and they very rightfully responded by pointing out that A, they're not doing anything that other big name pop stars aren't doing, and B, you are literally the ones writing the rules, Billboard. If you're winding up with #1 hits that don't reflect the things you think a #1 hit should, that is on you to fix it. I get that BTS and their fan base are easy targets for a number of reasons. There are plenty of things to legitimately criticize the stan armies for, and God knows I don't plan to stop making jokes at their expense. But the fact of the matter is that hundreds of thousands of Americans have enough legitimate love and passion for this Korean boy band that they are willing to spend massive amounts of time, effort, and money to get them the recognition they feel like they deserve. Like it or not, the BTS phenomenon is an organic movement being fueled by inorganic tactics, not the other way around. And trying to just sweep something this big under the rug strikes me as reductive at best and close-minded at worst.
I love it when you do it like that, and when you're close up, give me the shivers.
So when this song came out a couple weeks ago, I put out a poll asking people what they thought about it, and Ethan responded to that poll by saying, and I quote, "The melody constantly sounds like it wants to be catchier, but it can't be catchier because it's too worried about accidentally sounding like another song and getting sued." Oh, well, guess my job's been done for me. Moving on.
I just been fantasizing, and we got a lot of time.
I gotta say, it was pretty funny watching Doja Cat drop her album and then immediately have like 6 tracks from it all go viral at once, with the label having absolutely no idea which one to push. Apparently Need to Know is one of the ones they decided to support, which honestly was probably the worst thing they could have picked in terms of quality. But hey, it's Doja Cat. Even her weakest offerings are still pretty neat. My main issue with Need to Know is basically the same as my main issue with Knife Talk. There's not much of a real hook to it. It just kind of drifts here and there and winds up overstaying its welcome. This is helped though by the fact that Doja has a much wider range of vocal delivery and inflection than 21 Savage. So even though the song is basically just a sample platter of her usual playful, explicit hypersexuality all just spilling out, its bass appeal is strong enough to keep you engaged, even if nothing about it really sticks with you when you're done listening to it. Well, except for this line.
Oh, wait, you a fan of the magic? Poof, pussy like an Alakazam.
Well, can't say that I'm surprised. I mean, Hypno winds up taking most of the flack in that department, but let's be real, from the second we saw this thing, we knew it was a freak.
Isn't that right, Alakazam?
I need an adult. I need an adult.
I'll be fucked up if you can't be right, yeah. I do the same thing, I told you that I never would. I told you I changed, even when I knew I never could.
It's not often in one of these lists where I can point to a song and be almost positive that everybody in my audience has heard it before, but aside from Driver's License back in January, Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber is easily the most dominant hit of 2020, topping the streaming charts and being one of the most played songs on the radio, and honestly, I can see why. I'm giving the majority of credit for this one to the songwriting and production team consisting of Charlie Puth, Cashmere Cat, and the guy who produced Mood and Montero, Omer Fetty. The high-tempo synth-pop production absolutely carries this song, dancing playfully around the harsh emotional belts of the Kid Laroi for a nice contrast, knowing just when to ebb in and out with the intensity to maintain engagement, and rapping at a beautifully crisp 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The only thing that keeps this out of the good tier for me is Bieber, who just can't match Laroi's gusto and kind of throws the balance off. Besides that, this is pretty sweet, and that puts me out of step with a lot of people who really don't seem to like this song, specifically because of the lyrics, which, I mean, yeah, I get it.
I do the same thing, I told you that I never would. I told you I changed, even when I knew I never could. Know that I can't find nobody else as good as you. I need you to stay.
Yeah, the guy in this song sounds like a desperate, pathetic little shit, and if this girl knows what's good for her, she'll run for the hills, no doubt about it. I do know for a fact that there are a lot of people in real life who do beg and plead just like that until they wear you down, and if you find that off-putting, I won't fault you for it. However, something I've come to realize in recent years is that songs will typically let you know how seriously they want you to take their emotional beats, and Stay strikes me as the type of thing where the emotions are just a vessel through which to get a hard-hitting vocal performance and not something you're really meant to think about. Something I've I've been trying to do more of lately is to look at music through a future lens, and ask myself if the things that bother me about a song will really still bother me in the future once it's been around for a while and we're all used to it. Like, just for an example, you know this song, right?
I just wanna use your love tonight.
Now, be honest, did you even realize that this song was about a guy begging a girl to sleep with him while his partner is out of town? When this song came out in 1986, it was attacked as being harmful for that reason specifically. Yeah, don't worry, music critics have literally always been like this. But today no one cares about that, it's just a decent power pop song, nothing more. Honestly, if anyone does dislike this song today, it's probably mainly because the lead singer does sound a bit, well, you know.
Josie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over.
Yeah, but anyways, I think that's the camp that Stay is gonna wind up in. I'm pretty sure that any shittiness in the lyrics will wind up overlooked, and the groove will stick with us longer than any baggage ever will. Well, this was a shrinker. I mean, I loved this song when it came out, and I still do enjoy it a good bit, but oh good lord was this song not designed to be heard absolutely everywhere all the time like it's been. Overplay hit hard with this one. Even beyond that though, I think I just overrated it at a base level last time. This song absolutely does not belong in the excellent tier, and I frankly don't know why I ever thought it did. I think I just got swept up in the hype for Olivia as an artist and my excitement at the return of rock to the top of the charts. I definitely got a bit carried away. Though in my defense, I was far from the only one. It seems like literally everyone I talked to online was losing their mind over how good this song was. Honestly, Billboard Twitter ate up this song so completely and thoroughly that you'd think it had been written by Paramore. Wait. Warning, flashing lights. If you have epilepsy, look away for the next minute and a half if you don't want to die. Okay, go.
Take my breath and make it last forever.
Am I the only one getting kind of sick of The Weeknd? I mean, I know that's kind of unfair. It's not Abel's fault that Blinding Lights stayed in the top 20 for nearly 2 years straight. In fact, to be not unfair, Take My Breath is definitely a good song, and it is relatively distinct from the rest of Abel's recent work. This is a pretty different brand of 80s nostalgia than what he's become known for, being more distinctly post-disco and putting more emphasis on those glittering synthwave keyboard runs, as opposed to the heavier, more atmospheric tones of After Hours. It is worth noting, though, that those tracks on After Hours, even the ones I didn't like, still felt like they were taking quintessential 80s tropes and updating them with more modern production influences. I never bought into the hype for Heartless, but that track definitely sounded like Metro Boomin produced it, and that is not something that could have happened 35 years ago. That's why, even if I do prefer Take My Breath to Heartless as a piece of music, I actually feel significantly less affection for it, because it's the first Weeknd song I've ever heard that sounds like he's just copying the sounds of the 80s rather than evolving them.
Want me to hold on to your time? Now pull me close, I feel the heat between your thighs.
Take My Breath is just a Michael Jackson song. It's not a Michael Jackson inspired thing like Can't Feel My Face. No, it literally just sounds like a Michael Jackson song with a bit more of an early MTV Flashdance vibe about it. Abel really didn't do anything particularly novel or special with these songs. He's just leaning into the Bruno Mars method of trying on a retro sound like a prom tuxedo he's gonna return the next day. If not for the fact that it was clearly mixed digitally, you could have told me this song came out in 1984 and I would have believed you. Granted, there are definitely worse sounds to directly plagiarize than post-disco synthpop from 1984, but after years on end of all throwbacks sounding pretty much exactly like this, yeah, this isn't particularly impressive. It is a good song, but it's definitely one of the least sticky songs I've ever given that title to.
My bad habits lead to late nights, sitting alone.
So here we've got the newest big hit from Ed Sheeran, also known as the man who's going to hold off on releasing an album called Minus for as long as he possibly can. I'm sure that Square Root and Cosign will be dropping in 23 and 6 respectively. This song has been wildly successful in streaming, sales, and airplay ever since it dropped, and yet the general response to it appeared to be a beleaguered sigh from an audience who saw it less as a fun pop song and more as a warning signaling yet another deluge of obnoxiously milquetoast Ed Sheeran songs. I have to admit, my initial reaction reaction was to just write this song off as Ed Sheeran taking his crack at that one song that literally every single white male pop artist seems obligated to release these days. I mean, let's be real, this song does sound a lot like that one Charlie Puth song, which sounds a lot like that one Jonas Brothers song, which sounds a lot like that one Shawn Mendes song, which sounds a lot like that one Justin Bieber song. The first time I heard this, I literally thought it was a Justin Bieber song. Ed's accent is almost completely imperceptible, and to my ears it sounded like Ed had finally shaved off his last little scrap of individuality for the sake of cross-market appeal. In retrospect, I now realize that the reason I thought that was because I first heard it on the radio, and literally any song sucks when you hear it on the radio. I also think Levitating sounds wispy and pathetic when I hear it on the radio, and that's one of the best pop songs to hit the charts in years. I legitimately think that's the reason why Ed Sheeran has such a bum rap these days, because he's one of the most played artists on the radio, and so people don't associate his music with anything besides a bad signal in a traffic jam and barely audible background noise in a JCPenney. I don't blame people at all for being fed up with Ed Sheeran when the only time they hear him he sounds like this. Of course that's gonna suck, whereas if you actually seek out this track and listen to it with headphones or the full enveloping soundscape of a car with a clean streaming connection, you'll realize that there's actually a pretty catchy melody built upon a pretty lush sonic soundscape with some really neat production touches in there.
Falling over everything to reach the first time spark.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think Bad Habits is a particularly special song, but I do think it's a good one with a lot of appealing qualities, which isn't the total sellout I originally pegged it as. If the radio is the only place you know this one from, I highly recommend the effort to seek it out and listen to it properly before you write it off completely.
You're right, I got my guy, but I can't help it, I want you.
As the 2020s start to form more of their own musical identity, it's inevitable that people are going to start giving names to some of its biggest trends. And one of the biggest trends of the moment is a certain style of R&B headed by artists like Doja Cat and SZA that features a dark, dreamy, and seductive atmosphere accented by beautiful, otherworldly, glimmering synths. You know that whole classic 80s aesthetic of driving through a neon Tron world towards a warm, vibrant sunset? Imagine if that aesthetic took place in the fall rather than the summer, and that's the sound of a lot of contemporary R&B at the moment. I haven't seen anybody give it a pithy name yet, so from now on, I think I'm going to refer to this style as Moonlight R&B, with You Right being the best hit of the subgenre that's big right now.
You know I got so much to say, I try to hide it in my face and it don't work, you see through that I just wanna get with you when you're right.
Like I said, Doja Cat is such an immediately engaging presence with such a unique and textured voice that she can basically do whatever she wants to as long as the music backs her up. And this song is no exception, as she pines after some good old-fashioned Abel rod in spite of her loyalty to her current partner. I'd say that the Abel in question is probably the weakest part of the song, but that's only by default. The only real problem with The Weeknd's part is that it's a bit overly basic, no real surprises to be found in it whatsoever, which is kind of a running theme with him as of late. But hey, the man did his job. Who am I to complain? Oh, and by the way, this isn't a knock against the song at all, but I won't lie. I do find it kind of amusing that The Weeknd is bragging about being a divine sex god who's gonna bring Doja Cat to heaven in a voice that's higher pitched than hers is.
A couple strokes to put it in, then you belong to
I got a man, but I want you. I got a man, but I want you, and it's just...
Well, I have to admit, I did not have Lil Baby and The Weeknd hit #1 on the Christian charts on my 2021 bingo card, but hey, after last year, my belief is more suspended than Captain America, so do your worst, world.
Father, hold me close, don't let me down. I know you won't. Yeah, walking on the bridge, I threw my sins over the deep end.
Despite not being too much of an album guy, I actually did listen to the entirety of Kanye West's most recent album, Donda. Granted, I listened to it as background noise as I was tearing up an entire floor of carpet saturated with cat piss and carrying it out to the dumpster, so perhaps the circumstances were coloring my judgment a bit, but while I thought it was fine in the moment, there wasn't a ton that really stuck with me after the fact, which for the record is not something that I'd say about Ye or Life of Pablo. The exception to this was Hurricane, which manages to be the standout track on the record, not through any particular gimmicks or tricks, but by just having 3 engaging performers each doing what they do without too many bells or whistles over a heavy, thundering gospel soul track. I think I've made it clear that The Weeknd has been kind of underwhelming me as of late, but one thing he's just inherently good at is playing a powerful force of distant intrigue, and so he slots into this grandiose minor key gospel music pretty flawlessly. Neither Lil Baby nor Kanye do anything particularly stand out here. Reflection on their come up in public perception respectively isn't exactly breaking new ground for them, but considering that this is a new type of vibe for Lil Baby and a pretty great no-frills production job from Kanye, I think keeping it straightforward was the right call. A song that sounds like a thunderstorm is an all-time favorite trope of mine, and while this one doesn't come close to matching something like Blown Away or Downeaster Alexa in that regard, it's still an incredibly solid offering that I'm glad to have around. Also, it is worth noting that this song has apparently been kicking around in Kanye's mind for years now, with various leaked demos online containing verses from Young Thug, Ty Dolla $ign, Big Sean, and, you're not gonna believe this, Tekashi 6ix9ine. That's right. There is a reality not too far from our own where Tekashi 6ix9ine debuts at #1 on the Christian charts, which ranks up there with We Only Avoided Nuclear War because one Soviet officer refused to press a button and Big Bird was nearly a passenger on the Challenger as evidence that maybe we aren't living in the absolute worst possible timeline. Nothing new to add here. I've already said everything I wanted to about this one, and beyond reiterating my astonishment that a song like this has become such a monster hit, anything else I could possibly say in this segment would just be an echo of what I said in my summer ranking. I mean, I suppose I could repeat myself, but if I did that, then I think we could probably call that mental freeze when these people talk too much.
Hey, I wanna sell what you're buying. I wanna feel on your ass in Hawaii.
I still see some people to this day saying that Lil Nas X is an artist who thrives on nothing but novelty and shock value, and while I could at least see where that argument was coming from a few months ago, I think we can officially put that to rest now, because my analysis of this song's success was 100% correct. The music video may have been a pretty substantial launchpad that got the song on everyone's radar, but a launchpad is all it was, because we're now half a year removed from that video and the song is still an absolute juggernaut on Spotify. Even more surprising to me is that Lil Nas X has turned into quite a radio darling too. I've been hearing this song in the wild all over the place. What started off as a revolutionary, boundary-shattering song has turned into just another pop song that everyone and their grandma knows. I mean, especially one their grandma knows. They were talking about it on Fox News quite a lot for a while there. But yeah, everyone's heard this song and everyone loves it. It's a really cool, fun-sounding song that just so happens to be about a quest for some dude-on-dude cheek clappery. I've always maintained that the best way to help marginalized ideas become more accepted is to normalize them as much as possible, and the acceptance of Montero into the fold of society is a perfect example of this. I mean, hell, my mom listens to the Garth station on the drive into work, and even she likes this song. Look. Hey mom, what do you think of Gay Satan Song by Silly Horsey Man?
I like it.
Yay! So many songs like Circles and Blinding Lights becoming so huge as of late, I think I've been kind of spoiled by pop music that you can basically keep replaying forever without getting sick of it. And over the past few months, I've learned the hard way that Kiss Me More is not one of those songs. This was my summer jam. I listened to it several times a day, pretty much nonstop until the leaves started to turn, and holy shit am I sick of it. I honestly get a little queasy when I hear those opening notes now. Is the fact that this song is still my third favorite thing in the top 20 despite that a testament to just how amazing this song is at its core, or does it just go to show how much weaker pop music is now than it was over the summer? I'll leave that call to you. You know, after seeing the success of KSI as a rapper in the UK, I knew it was only a matter of time before we had a YouTuber break it big in the US. Honestly, I did not think that Drama Alert was something that anybody actually cared about anymore, but hey, if this is what it takes to bring the king of hip-hop out of hibernation, who am I to complain?
Hold on, y'all niggas playing with me, man. I am the Omega. PG Lane Rolling Gang, that's how he don't you address me unless it with 4 letters.
Hey Sean, did you put Family Ties in the top 2 entirely because you're obligated as a critic to kiss Kendrick Lamar's boots the very moment he's gracious enough to drop literally anything? I was originally going to say yes to that, considering that my undying reverence for Kendrick Lamar as the king of hip-hop is quite possibly the most generic quality that I have as a music reviewer, but looking back, I think I've been impartial enough towards Kendrick's output to earn my credentials when I say that, yes, Family Ties is legitimately a fantastic track.
Beat him up, I was seeing double in the projects, mad at myself, let him put it to the side.
This track mainly belongs to Kendrick's cousin Baby Keem, who I'm not particularly familiar with, but who completely owns the first half of this track with a laid-back hot-style horn instrumental and a really sweet guttural delivery with a lot of really good wham lines in there.
Girl of your dreams, to me as a fan, I netted 10 million and did a little dance.
So yeah, consider that first impression nailed. Although his role in the song is kind of inevitably just to lay out the red carpet for the King's first appearance on a single since the Black Panther soundtrack, complete with shots at the quote-unquote overnight activists who bailed on the BLM movement the second it stopped getting them likes on Instagram, and some of the most killer switch-ups to hit the top 20 in years.
I'm tripping, I'm jigging, my mental is
amazing, brother. Pop off only on occasions, brother.
Rich nigga, mama know I made it, brother.
The whole song really doesn't come out to any more than the sum of its parts. It's basically just another Life is Good, 2 separate songs stitched together without any meaningful cohesion between them. But the parts are so good that they don't really have to add up to more. They're doing their job just as parts on their own. I'm looking forward to hearing more from Baby Keem in the future, and the sounds of Kendrick revving his engines in preparation for his next big launch is easily enough to make this one of my favorite songs of the season. Only barely beaten out by...
And this one is for the champions. Ain't lost since I began.
So, I haven't done this in a while. I've actually been making an active effort not to do this over the past year or so, but the fact is that 2021 is coming to a close. Within the next couple months, I'm going to be making videos counting down the top 10 worst and best hit songs of this year. And I have so much I want to say about this song, what it means to me, and what it represents for the careers of the men involved, that I think I'm going to save my thoughts on it for the end of the year. For now, all I have to say is this. If there is anyone in the world who has earned the right to remake We Are the Champions for Gen Z, it's Lil Nas X. Full stop. So that's fall 2021 for you. We've got 1 terrible song, 3 bad songs, 2 meh songs, 4 decent songs, 5 good songs, and 5 excellent songs. Tallying it all up, that gives us a score of 64 out of 100. A pretty big drop in quality from the 78 we got in the summer, but that's more of a testament to how legendary this year's summer jam season was than anything else, because a 64 is still a well above average season of pop music. I originally had the idea in my head that the return to form for the music industry post-pandemic meant that the TikTok era of music was starting to wind down, but TikTok has become so fundamental to the way that Americans consume music these days that I think its influence is here to stay. Even when TikTok itself inevitably falls out of vogue, it's already written new rules of pop music consumption that are going to be with us for a long time, and the industry is just going to have to evolve and adapt around them, and in terms of quality, this is nothing but a good thing. The more direct influence the consumer has, the better, with the top 20 throughout this year being direct evidence of that. Of course, a season of music isn't defined solely by its top 20, so I do have some recommendations for you guys, but before we get to those, I'd just like to remind you to leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications of every new upload, and to leave me a comment telling me your thoughts on this video, the season of music, or anything else you want to say. I'm fully aware that YouTubers begging for likes, comments, and subs is a tedious cliche, but frankly, I don't care. This channel is my life. I want it to grow, and your engagement is the way to get in good with the YouTube algorithm, so engage with it as much as you possibly can. And while you're typing out all of those lovely comments, I'll give you some music to listen to. Once again, I had my top patrons give some recommendations for lower charting songs from anywhere in the world that they want more people to know about. And I randomly selected 10 of those songs to show to you guys here. Let's check them out.
Staring at a photograph of everything we used to have, the memories of long ago. How to shake them now, how to shake them now.
It's good in the regards to shoot. I put them on you, make it hard to move. Tattoo on my face is the mark of truth. Gotta watch what you say when they market you. I already predicted this.
I'm fading, replaying. These thoughts I was sinking down.
Moving silence, you can never hear me. If you got a problem when you see me, run it.
While I pop a bottle off of your chain swinging, clang clang, and it costs a lot. Bitch, I'm always after Guala, yeah, and you are not badass beat. Keep on going till you hit the spot. Whoa.
Take my hand, we're up to never, never land.
I願う未来に何度でもずっと食らいつくこの間違いだらけの世界の中君には笑ってほしいから
I wanna live life fast, I don't know how to slow down. Wanna get high, I don't know how to calm down. Help me now, I'm running on empty, and I don't wanna be a memory.
And that'll do it for the recommendations. I also have some lucky patrons who have been selected to give their thoughts on some of the music we discussed this week, but before we get to those, I would like to give a huge thank you to all of my patrons. I recently fine-tuned and adjusted some of my Patreon rewards to make them more balanced and appealing, and the first of these changes is that the $1 tier actually has a reward now. Yeah, the $1 tier is no longer just a means of showing your support with no bonus. As of now, all my $1 patrons have their names in the credits along with everyone else. So yeah, if you could possibly support me with just $1, 4 measly quarters per video, that would be immensely helpful. Plus, your name will officially be in every video I ever make, which would be pretty friggin' nifty. And of course, if you want to double that to 8 quarters per video, or $2, you'll also get to suggest for and vote on any songs in the world you want me to talk about in Grab Bag Reviews. Beyond that, all $1 and $2 patrons also have the exact same chances as all other patrons of being selected to give their thoughts on any songs I talk about in the Patron Reviews at the end of each video. And with that, let's turn it over to some lucky patrons. From Ed V. Goose regarding Fancy Like.
This sounds like something that Weird Al would make, except it's done maybe more serious? I know nothing about the TikTok meme, but in a vacuum, it reads like Walker was paid to do brand porn. Just waiting for the sequel when he takes his lady to Cracker Barrel. 5 out of 10.
From Eric Danielson regarding Girls Want Girls. Wow, this Drake song sure does exist, doesn't it? Aside from that one infamous line, this song is boring as hell, and I'd rather watch paint dry than listen to it. Drake needs to go away. From Simon G regarding Take My Breath. The Weeknd continues to be the master of throwback pop. This sounds like a cross between Michael Jackson and Stevie Nicks. His voice fits on the song perfectly, and I love the harmonies on the final chorus. From Julian regarding Montero. Honestly, even with all the praise it gets, I still kind of feel like Montero is being undersold. I'd say it's an easy 6 out of 5. Not just because of how good it is, but because this is one of the most important number ones we've ever had. The fact that a song with this subject matter reached the top of the charts is nothing short of a miracle, but the man pulled it off. And last but not least, from Night Browser regarding Industry Baby. It's a song that shows a lot of potential from the title and artists alone and delivers that promise. You gotta love lines such as, I blew up, now everyone trying to sue me, or I didn't peak in high school, I'm still out here getting cuter. Thank you all for your contributions, and again, all patrons of every level have an equal chance of being selected for Patron Reviews. So if you want to appear in one of my videos, feel free to hop on board for as little as $1 per video. Beyond that, we of course have $5 patrons who will be granted access to my Discord server and join the awesome community of people we have on there. The $10 patrons who not only get early access to videos before they premiere, but also a custom designed piece of artwork in the end credits, which you've been seeing scrolling across the top of the screen this whole time. And the $20 patrons who get to directly select any song for me to give a guaranteed review on in each new episode of Grab Bag Reviews. My goal is to give you guys as much content as I possibly can as thanks for your support, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate every one of you. I'm planning on going to grad school soon, and I'm sure you know how not cheap that is, but if every one of you guys could give me literally just $1 per video, I would be totally set. Every little bit helps, and I truly thank you all for your support. I'm Sean Fay-Wolfe of Diamond X Studios. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and until next time, take care of yourselves.
Todo el mundo en pandilla en la discoteca.